Okay. I'd like to call the January 10th, 2024. I just noticed in the agenda, it says 2023. Meeting of the Trees and Greenery Committee to order. First thing on the agenda is the acceptance of minutes of the December meeting, which I just learned from Michael were not attached. And so we'll put that off to the next meeting.
We'll have to remember deeper.
Yes. And Dick Adams had come back from retirement to review those, so and I still didn't put them in. Tree removal request, 12 Shearwater Drive.
Yeah, and I think we have someone here to discuss that. Morning.
Morning, everyone. My name is Neil Hansen. I'm a project manager with Tyne Bonds. We're the civil engineers for this project. So the project, just I'll give you a really quick overview, is a existing single lot on Shearwater Drive that formerly housed 6 buildings that had combined 22 units. The applicant has subdivided this lot into 9 individual lots to build 9 single-family homes. A component of the project is some utility upgrades within Shearwater Drive, and the replacement of a section of sewer line which runs under the Shearwater Drive sidewalk is the main reason why we need to remove 2 of the trees that are within the right-of-way. The trees are actually almost directly on top of the water line as well that runs under that sidewalk, so the combination of those two necessitates the removal of those 2 trees. As part of the construction, we'll be adding or replacing the 2 trees and then adding an additional 3 trees along the right of way. There's a couple gaps in the street trees, so we'll be filling in those gaps and make a uniform roadway with a variety of street trees.
On that same side of the road.
Yes, yeah, all the work will be on the Market Street side of Shearwater Drive. We've gone back and forth with Max a couple times to. Oh, sorry,
Neil, do you have any handouts or anything to share with the committee?
I do not.
It was all included in the,
packet?
everybody.
Right,
should-
can you bring that? Yeah, if we can pop that up.
And actually, we've kind of discouraged the multiple handouts.
We are trying, yeah, that was.
Yes, and
that was-
Joanna's not
yes.
here today in this. I didn't do, I know.
You can pass that around if you like. So we have gone back and forth with Max a couple times on the species of trees we were
Yeah,
proposing.
I might be able to pull this up.
I believe we were initially proposing 5 maples to replace the 2 trees and the 3 additional, and Max had asked us to change that because there was already a lot of maples in that neighborhood. So we are now showing, I believe it's 3 oaks and
Huh.
I think
Sweet
Sweet Gum is
Yep.
the other one.
Oh, and Sweetcomb.
Oak and Sweetcomb.
Okay. And those are, there are no power lines there. Is that true or?
The
not?
power lines are on the opposite side of the
Right,
street, and
right.
then they do cross over to our side of the street, but that. Yeah, so the 2 trees that are circled in red are the 2 that are being removed, and they're basically right on the property line. And then at that section of road, the utility lines are on the opposite side of the street. They do cross closer to Portsmouth Boulevard when you get down there, but they're not interfering with
Mhm.
the existing trees that are down there that we're going to be saving.
How big will these oaks? Yeah, Max.
They will be the standard oaks, so I believe swamp white, so we're looking at 60-70 feet at full maturity. I know Sweet Gum are a little bit shorter than that at full maturity, somewhere around 40-50, I can imagine, so.
Not at our.
Good
30.
replacements for the red maple, for sure.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't you take that 3rd red maple out,
Yeah, that's my question.
just above the letter M?
Yeah, so that one has it does have a basal issue, like there's some basal damage and an old wound. I figured if it doesn't have to be removed because of the utility replacement underground, then we should allow it to.
So that
remain.
tree is not on top of the.
No, so just sort of between the first tree we're removing and that tree that we're just talking about, there's a sewer manhole. And the sewer starts crossing the street at that point, so it gets farther away from the sidewalk and gets out at, yeah.
Yep, so that tree, right, yep, right where
Yeah.
your cursor is. And
So
there's-
the sewer starts moving away from the side of the road at that point into the middle of the road.
Mhm.
And then the water line does continue down the sidewalk, so it is pretty close to all of those street trees.
You don't think this new sidewalk would kill that tree anyway?
So, I mean, we saved quite a few trees out in Hanaway that I thought would be very negatively impacted with the removal of the old sidewalk, the road resurfacing, and so far, I mean, obviously it's a little early to tell, but they managed to keep those trees healthy and not cause any damage. in that
Trees are
process.
amazing.
Trees are amazing. I agree.
With all the water we got.
I know it's on your property. Are you gonna save that Norway spruce?
Sure.
It's about in the middle of the project.
Is it right there? to the-
No, it's not. It's
Down
obviously,
down in this area? Down in
Oh,
the,
it was set back, wasn't it?
yes, yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, it's probably the one, like the third house lot in. No, that would get removed.
Is that, would you say that probably any tree on that private property of the lots being developed, any trees kind of nearby will be removed in that process?
Yeah, it's likely, yeah. The first like 4 lots were, I think, generally reusing some of those driveways. We had to move some of them in order to make the lot configuration work.
Okay.
But yeah, that one looks like it's marked to be removed. It's not specifically called out, but it's anything that's not faded back on this plan is scheduled to be removed.
Any other questions for Neil or any discussion? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to remove those trees.
Seconded by Mike. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Nice choice of trees.
Yeah.
I love the sweet gum.
So
I do too.
what tree are you guys here for?
You're here for 581 Lafayette Road.
Yeah, the landscape plan approval for Lafayette at Ledgewood Drive.
Thank you. Oh, good. I get the ledger and it's bigger than I can print.
Welcome.
Thank you.
These are all
I think
Back.
that's like.
Would
I
you
got
like
the
one?
second, sorry, the second sheet is. Planting sheet.
pass it back that way.
Yeah, right.
for you.
I'll recycle that. They don't need to plant the sheet.
Yeah, so
Good morning, I'm
Yeah.
Terrence Parker, landscape architect. I'm with Marie Body from Mark McNabb's Bodie. From Mark McNabb's group. So as you know, that at 581, there's a lot of existing plant materials. So I tried to work with the existing plant materials. And there's a lot of pavement removal associated with the new development. To the east there along Ledgewood Drive, that semicircle off of that's enclosed by a fence. And then there's the barrier between the apartment buildings and the green space that we have that's part of the pavement extension. So as you know, there's a long line of evergreens that's removed as part of that planting on the but that's the actual east side, on the lower side there. So as part of the building expansion, to the bottom of the sheet, that's all building expansion. So there's a lot of really narrow, beautiful arborvitaes and oaks in there. So those are being transplanted to the road barrier on the bottom of the sheet there. So I know the city has an approach where they don't want a monoculture of plants. So I tried to give, a pattern of plant materials that all have the similar habit, but vary in texture and, leaf habit. So you can see on the bottom stretch, there's some of the existing oaks. There's a note there about transplanting existing oaks and then transplanting the existing, arborvitaes. So I try to space those according to how the apartment buildings are, abutting. And then there's additional, I'm still on the bottom of the page, but. Yeah, so there's,
I was looking for that note.
well, see the
Doesn't matter, go
long,
ahead,
see
keep
the
going,
long
keep
word
going.
there, Peter, transplanted,
Transplant, got it,
right
right
there,
there.
there's transplanted oaks, and then to the left of that, there's the transplanted arborvitae's.
Yep.
So those are coming from like across the street,
Right.
and the plants are in really good condition,
Mhm.
and and you know, it's not that old, so, and if they don't make it, then we'll, you know, normally replace them with a like plant. But those are just transplanted down there, there's a wall there that separates the property line.
It's great that you're transplanting trees that would normally just be removed and.
Yeah, I know that's
You
the,
know,
They're in good shape.
That's awesome.
right.
You're gonna
Agreed.
use a spade.
I'm not sure how they're gonna be transplanted yet, but it's possible that some of them have small enough root balls because they're contained by pavement and building. So
Mhm.
they could have really small root balls, which facilitates even an excavator arm going in there and lifting them out.
Do your best.
So that's the strategy there. Narrow, repeated patterns, transplants that give the vertical separation from the apartment building to the new construction. And then if you roll back up to where right there, Peter, that's that soft arc, there's a fence there. So on the whole, that interior of that is all pavement removal. So then there's you know, an ornamental garden in you know, below and above that walkway, that little access walkway. So that's, you know, it's ornamental for the, you know, restaurant guests and whoever goes into that space. So it's a lot of pollinators, low evergreens, a lot of seasonal variation. And Max and I had a conversation earlier in the week, and this plan has some ground covers going over onto the city property. The plan I'm submitting this morning has none of those. Because there's no reason not to nudge.
Like this right here?
No, below,
No,
Peter,
down,
below, see that
right there.
right there where the arrow is. So all those plants are now on the private property. There's no
Sliding that way.
plant that's onto the city property, and they're low growth sumac, so they're super hardy.
All that.
But that's the ground cover, and then there's silver bells in there for
Hmm.
canopy tree with flowers, but all those trees and ground cover are now completely on private property. So that's what Max and I talked about in the last week.
Where are you gonna put that tulip tree?
That's at the lower corner at the entrance there, so it's back enough from the roadway.
Right there?
No, way down, Peter, at the bottom of the sheet by the,
Keep going
Go.
further.
right, bottom on the
more.
bottom.
There you
right,
go.
That
Yep.
tree.
Oh,
It's one of my new favorite trees, because
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, they get massive
Why not? And fast.
and
Yeah, they
fast.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've
Great pollinators
really
too.
fun leaves, fun flower.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of kind of interest in the plant.
Mm-hmm. Wildlife loves it.
And they're a native tree because yeah, mostly southern, but because of climate change, they're just
Coming on up.
Yeah.
Yeah, migrating up.
yeah, so at least there'll be seeds to be spread into the local woods.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, really.
That's just your detail sheet.
Yes, and that's just the planting.
Yeah, that's the kind of typical.
On the silver bells, what color variety are you putting in?
I think they're just the white ones. So it's a plant, it's another plant that I'm moving up, and there's a massive one in right on the Northampton line that's like 30 feet. It's just covers
Mm.
the
Yeah.
pavement with
Oh.
petals.
I've
on
got
a private- it's on a
I've
private
got a
property.
pink one that's doing quite well.
And I planted one at the Rock Street Park that's really doing well, right near where Peter Happy's curved sign is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Silver Bell right if you're looking at the sign, it's to the left of the
That
sign.
pot came out beautiful. It really
Next,
did.
should
Yeah.
the,
Really did.
Mm-hmm.
should the note read cut and remove wire basket and burlap? Do we leave, we don't leave partial wire, do we?
Mhm.
That's my bad. That's an old detail. I'll change that,
Yes,
Peter.
it's just say cut,
I'll,
cut and remove wire
I'll connect
basket.
with you and
burlap.
send over the.
Yeah,
city
thank you for
approved
catching that.
plantings.
Yeah.
That's an old detail, yeah, so that'll change.
Okay, yeah, I figured you were up
Yeah.
to speed on that.
Yeah,
Okay. Awesome.
Terrence, you were talking about canopy. Where were you pointing when you were talking?
the canopy of the silver bells and the canopy of the tulip tree.
Okay. Is that, like, my question was, On this, when you come out of the back driveway behind the building and you look towards Lafayette Road, I think when this came before the committee, when I can't remember the name of the Italian restaurant was going into the
Tuscan Market.
Tuscan Market,
was
right?
going in there. And some reason, there were no trees planted along the side there. And it struck me that we usually try to have some street trees along, and there's a big section with no street trees, and I wonder if there was a reason for that.
Are you referring to the Route 1 Lafayette Road
No,
side?
no, right,
The
right,
Ledgewood.
right to the, as you look at this, to the left of Ledgewood, where it says Ledgewood Drive, that
Yeah, kind of
section.
where your cursor, yep,
Yeah.
right around, but in the right of way proper.
Well, there are three red buds there. Those three trees are, I mean, it's a,
Is that, you're
It's an un-
proposing?
no, those are existing. So this band, Peter, is all existing trees.
Right, okay.
So we're not really touching that because that's a secure planting. But yeah, the former applicant didn't put street trees.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if
Hmm.
street trees would be fitting in that location. I mean, it's kind of, as you come into Ledgewood Drive, the night trees nearer to the building, but not any right along the street.
Well, you would have to
Yeah, that would be, I mean,
up city property.
yeah,
Well, that-
so I think, at least as far as, I mean, I haven't really considered it until you brought up the point, but if we were to throw some shade trees along the street, it would be, I think that would be in conflict with all of the plantings that are now next to the sidewalk and all the new installations there. They would be competing for resources and sunlight. So I don't oppose planting trees there, but it would definitely, I think, there'd be some consequences and putting trees so close to, this really well, like manicured and designed installation. So we could possibly do maybe not necessarily, full-size shade trees, but if we did want to throw something down there that would be smaller at full maturing height, I think that would possibly work okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I think the property owner's done a nice job maintaining the landscaping there. And then to start, having city involvement and city trees in that area would kind of take away from the incentive to maintain that area.
Right,
from the
they've done a
property
nice
owner.
job. They've done a nice
So I
job.
would,
And this
I
is
would
a
rather
nice
leave it,
plan.
they're doing a good job, let them continue to do that.
And then this area up here by the bus stop and the bike rack, that's city.
Yeah.
And is there anything do we have something there now?
There
Is-
are a lot of, so I initially, when we were planting 200 trees.
Mhm, yeah.
Trying to find any place to throw them, and I ended up flagging that area for some proposed planting sites, and there are a lot of underground utilities through there.
Oh.
That I think it would be very problematic to even just plant them, let alone let them establish, so.
Mhm.
There's some hydrangea in there.
There's some, I know, at least in the very front, that we've ended up throwing a lot of trees in that right along Lafayette right there. We've thrown a lot of trees in there in the recent years, but at least where the bus stop is,
Yeah,
like that whole island has a lot of utilities
yeah.
underground.
Cause I
So
always looking for shade in situations where there's bus
And I
stops and
thought
there's the
that-
bike rack
the
and
same
shade,
thought.
shade for
Yeah,
the
and
people.
I thought there was plenty of room, and then once Unitil came through and there's quite a bit, and I can absolutely throw another, planting flag in there and send it off to
Hmm.
dig safe and get another look at it. But when I remember seeing all of the,
Mhm.
colored utility flags and spray paint on the ground, I'm like, I'm just gonna avoid this. It's
Mhm.
it's full. So. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the landscape plan?
Just what has been done in that location and on Lafayette Road. And the city state program on Lafayette Road is just remarkable over the last 10 years or something.
Mhm.
It's really, transformed that area.
Little rain gardens kind of
Mm.
tucked up there. Is that doing pretty well?
Not sure. I don't
Well,
know.
doesn't cause you grief, so maybe.
Yeah,
it
right.
is.
Hey, yeah.
Just to
Absolutely.
to be aware, we have invested a lot of resources to that gate. We call it one of the gateways,
Mm.
similar to Market Street. And it is something that is expensive.
Mm-hmm,
You know, it's, between the two gateways, it's $90,000.
mm-hmm.
So
Is that just for, what, is that for maintenance?
that's
Just,
for contracted maintenance.
yeah, it looks fantastic. And they're both, and.
It's worth doing it as long as we have the resources and
It
people are
is worth
supporting
it.
it. That'd be great.
Right.
I do want to comment with, about all, Terrence's, choices of plant material. I think that this just is I'd like to see more of this. I like to see our developers look at this, and I like them to use these choices of plant materials.
Put up
They're-
your marketing information there, Terrence.
Native, they're,
As I said earlier, that you know,
Variety.
Mark has a high standard for how he wants to take care of his buildings and plants, so it's just.
I'd like to have us have those high standards across the board. Because this is very stellar. This is really a good example.
Thank you.
I looked up a couple that I wasn't familiar with. I thought Pat would definitely weigh in if she spotted. She's the queen for non-natives, but I didn't see anything, Pat, did you?
No, I think it's really well done.
Yeah,
Just happy tulip tree, red buds. I mean, I know a lot of this is already there, but it's, yeah, makes me smile.
Okay, do we have any further discussion? Any other questions? No. Do we have a motion to recommend approval of this?
and I'll second it.
Seconded by
Mhm.
Deb. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you
Right.
very much.
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
It's a pleasure.
Have a good day.
Same.
See you on the next.
Next round.
Okay, 67 Willard Avenue, Max.
Yeah, so just let me. Yeah. Yeah, we, at least as far as these two, the two remaining removal requests, they both had storm damage, this past December. And yeah, they've been declining. I don't know, you've obviously all seen them and have your own opinions on them, but, for me, I think it's just worth removing them and
You're gonna take both then?
yeah.
Have you spoken to the property owner? Is there,
Only one's tagged, but
Yeah, only one's tagged.
Oh, I apologize, at 67 Willard?
Yes.
Yeah, I only saw one. That's why when you.
Oh, so, at least as far as that tree goes, that one it's just required more pruning and maintenance than the other tree. I know that one's also in a state of decline, but at least as far as, of course we could do both, but, at least for me, when I saw that one on the left side of the house, if you're looking straight at the house, that one was just in far worse shape. And I know we can mitigate some of the risk in the tree that is remaining by just continuing on some prunings, but as far as that one tree posted, I feel strongly that it should be removed. Yeah, I remember setting up in the bucket truck and getting those two trees and then the other two trees across the street in the same setup. And I remember spending way more time on the tree that we're talking about removing here today, and knowing that probably the next time we come and do any work on this tree would likely be a removal. So yeah, I have no problem removing the other tree at the same time as well, just to really open it up in there. But at least as far as how I was approaching it and looking at it, we can absolutely stagger the removal and wait for that tree to decline even further if that's something we're all interested in doing.
And you did talk to the homeowners around at 67?
I did not talk to the homeowners at 67.
Yeah, they're not here. So, okay.
Yeah,
Well, we haven't posted the second tree.
no, that's correct.
I mean, if it's good do we get that, replace the tree that's taken down, maybe you're gonna be watching it.
Yeah, of course. And, I can absolutely, I didn't spend as much time looking at that tree as I did this one in particular. So I'll make a note to go and inspect that tree more thoroughly for the February meeting. And then we can revisit that if we'd like. And if it is something that I feel we should go ahead and remove, then I'll include that on the February meeting.
Okay, great.
So do we have a motion to recommend removal of
I'll recommend.
One at 87.
Yeah,
Motion
I
made by
move.
Pat,
Yep.
seconded by Dennis.
Yeah, which one was that now?
67 will.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Mhm.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Woodbury Avenue at Thornton.
Another tree with that had some storm damage in the same storm. It was a significant leader that came out of that. I think the reality is we can prune it and let it do its thing. But just looking at the total amount of canopy loss in that, it was, if not 50%, very close to 50%. So yeah, realistically, I just think, and that's another tree that I've pruned at least once in the past couple of years.
Hey, did you have a copy picture of that?
That's, I was just looking
Okay.
for, pull it up.
Yeah, some decent sized wounds on that tree too. So even if we prune it and allow it to stick around. Oh, and that's the yep, so that's the willow tree on the left there. Wait, no.
No.
I think it's,
That's 67.
yeah, so it's, yep, it's right where your cursor
So
is
here?
then. Nope, to your left.
This one?
Yep, that one.
All right, let's get back to. Um,
You do look different when they're leafed out.
Yeah, and it's,
When you come in, they're chopped here and chopped there, and then it gets all, then it's kind of dangling. You're like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
just
And
that's a hazard. But now it's like, oh,
in a
well.
lot of these photos, I feel, I think the most recent, like there are some photos from 2022, and then there are others that are from 2011 and 2012 still. Like I think Lincoln Ave is all still 2012. So
Wow.
you can go through, or maybe it's a little bit later, but you can see all the construction and it being resurfaced and all that. So and then this tree is just to the right. That one right there in the corner. Yes, that one. To the, yep, that one right there. So the leader that came out was actually it connected right where your cursor was. So it was a decent, yeah, so that's sort of the
Mhm.
leftmost leader. The central portion of that all came out. And like I said, so that's from 2019. I've pruned it since September 2019. It already looks a little bit different than that already. So
What's the tree to the left beyond it on the left side? What is that? What is?
I
that?
don't know if that's still there, but is that a dogwood of some kind?
Hmm,
Can't tell.
mhm,
Maybe a crab apple?
Yeah.
Crab apple now? Yeah.
mhm.
There you.
Anyway, yeah,
Good job.
yeah, just, if the storm hadn't rolled through and taken out portions of both of these trees, I mean, we could have, we may not even be able, we may not be deliberating their removals today, but it's just how it goes, I guess.
Yeah, any questions, discussion about Woodbury at Thornton? Have a motion to recommend removal. Dennis again,
Second.
Pat seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Before we go into Arbor Day, how did the city fare with the storm last night? As far as any tree branches, or I didn't know if we'd see, I was laying in bed thinking, do you think we'll see Max today?
I had that thought
I
going to
mean,
bed last night.
at my house, it was so scary.
Yeah, no, no calls.
Minor limbs, if anything, like
Yeah.
small diameter stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I had a conversation with Scott Richardson the other day because we were looking at other trees that will be coming up for removal, but he and Bob Burner also shared this sentiment, but they attributed that to us really going forward and removing hazardous trees
Mhm.
before they become problematic. So as best as we can, we're really identifying, right, exactly, knock on wood, the relationship that we have with, yeah, the relationship that we have with them now, I think is really strong, and we're able to identify those problematic trees and remove them before they become an even greater issue. So
Mhm.
he did want to extend his gratitude and thanks, both Scott and Bob Burner for
Mhm.
all of that. So
When I talk with citizens, I end up coming to that conversation.
yeah,
That some of tree removal is important for the safety of our citizens, and some, you may not see the tree as its health, but it's truly, you particularly look at our inventory with that eye.
yeah.
And
thank you.
it's really important, and that's something that it's softened my approach to trees that might be removed that I prefer not to, but when I do look at it as a safety issue, I get it.
Yeah.
And so I do message.
Thank you. Yeah.
Arbor Day
Yeah.
24.
No movement necessarily on transplanting any chestnut saplings. From, I believe we discussed that in
Mhm.
December. So I've reached out to the owner of some of 4 saplings who was interested in donating them this past summer. So
Mhm.
I'll keep trying that. But at least as far as the sustainability fair, I've secured 2 pollinator packs. So I don't know if you've all ever been on the state, you may have been on the state nursery's website, but you can buy, obviously,
Right.
trees individually or in packs, and at least in the pollinator pack, and I wrote it down this morning because I realized I didn't, but it's not just trees, but it has beach plum, crabapple, gray dogwood, berry, and Virginia rose. And one of the limitations I think we had at the tree giveaway last spring, was that we had trees that were maturing at incredible heights. Like we had all those Don redwoods in it. In
Yeah.
Portsmouth, who has the space to,
Right.
plant all those trees. So,
And the serviceberry went first,
yeah, right. So we
because I
had-
think that
yeah,
that's telling of
Right.
what
The
people.
sourwoods went first because there were only 5 of them.
There we go.
Okay, all right. But because of the size and what people can put
Absolutely.
in, and that's, a good bush
Yeah.
is
yeah.
also a very nice idea, because
Yeah.
people might have room for bushes, and, there's all sorts of critters that love bushes.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So at least as far as, going with the pollinator pack, we do have trees, and then we do have the bushes and the shrubs, and
That's great.
they all benefit bees and other pollinators and other wildlife. So I think it's just a net positive to get more of those species and all that into the city. So
So at your sustainability table, you're going to talk
Yeah.
pollinator, urban pollinator kind of idea. Is that what you're doing?
Haven't completely, thought
Okay, because
that
my
far
garden club
forward.
will be coming and doing something
Sure.
similar, so we
No.
should coordinate.
it's mostly just to show people how to properly plant these things
Right.
and trees and talk trees at large with the city residents. So nothing, I don't want to step on anybody's toes.
No, we
It
just
just-
don't want to redo. We'll just complement
Yeah.
each other and
Yeah,
expand.
and obviously you can
Mhm.
direct them to our table and
Mhm.
we'll give those away. But yeah, so it's 5, those 5, and then 5 of each, and we got 2, so 50 things to give away to people. So and if they don't, and let's say we have some left over, we'll plant them in the city or give them to you fine folk, whatever
Give them to
whatever
the
works.
adopt-a-spot people.
Yeah, we could.
That would be
absolutely.
great.
Yeah, we'll find homes for those things for sure. So
Great.
yeah, at least as far as Arbor Day 24.
What's the
Yes.
date of that?
Anybody? End of the
It's
month.
around
you know,
Earth
it's-
Day of May, yeah.
Yeah, for the last Friday of April.
In April.
Yeah, so it's probably the 24th,
I'll look it up.
6th, 5th, something like that. Yeah.
26th.
26th,
Mhm.
perfect.
Or an update on sort of all the stuff is an update on the future plantings, but
Yeah.
anything specific?
Nope. So, at least as far as our operations, again, we're still doing the 150. That order is confirmed that I had shown off in December. I'm sure we'll be getting an invoice from Schichtel's next month. So we're we're using those trees to replant Panaway. We're also using those trees to plant in the skate park. And then after that, we probably have something like, I would say probably close to 80 to 90 trees to then go into the city at large. So, and that puts us still right around that 100 tree plantings that we had been doing a few years ago. But I personally am really excited to plant the skate park. It'll be kind of transformative in the same way that we planted Pease Ball Field this past spring, and we threw something like 20 trees into there, and there were no trees anywhere. And I worked with Don Doro and Mark Blanchette into, and those are our ball field laborers. They worked with them, and it really was kind of like you snap your finger and you look around, you're like, oh my God, there's trees everywhere, So having a similar effect at the skate park will be really cool to witness.
While we're on that subject, I was gonna bring this up on a new business. I think this committee needs to recognize Dick Adams' 30 years of service in an appropriate way. We're not gonna wait until he's gone. His favorite tree is a hackberry tree. Can you find one?
I think we have some ordered. Absolutely. So maybe next month because I know we've done some memorial tree planting proposals here, so we can obviously include that.
It wouldn't be a memorial tree, it'd be a.
Oh, sorry, sorry, I apologize. Yes.
That's right. Michael's
Thank
getting
you.
it.
I apologize. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, if you've got a hackberry coming,
Yeah,
Where would you suggest put,
I would place that honored choice or selection to Dick himself.
Okay.
In one of our city parks, I think would be okay.
Yeah.
we can absolutely find.
There's only
Space for
one in
hackberry.
Portsmouth. Well, I've got a little one in the cemetery, but there's only one hackberry that I know of.
We had
Stop.
It's on Woodbury Avenue.
10, we bought 10. And all of them, and I think what we'll end up doing is plant these 5 right away, because I think I've only purchased 5 for this spring. But I think only 1 or 2 of them are in decent shape. And we've already pulled out close to all of the hackberry we planted. So I don't know if it has some problem with being a bare root transplant. But I don't know, we'll see.
So they were planted this.
Yes, in 23, we planted 10 of them and only 2 of them, I think.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if we waited a little too long and they were kind of buried under the pile, but
And were they all in the same place, around the same vicinity, or
No,
they
no, no,
scattered
we-
around the
we
city?
Put them all across the city, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out if they're, and I didn't see this in any paperwork or in any catalog or anything, that they would be problematic as a bare root transplanted tree.
Mhm.
They just happened to not do well for some reason or another. And it's not like we only transplanted the hackberries improperly. Like it's not, I don't think it's anything we did on our end, but I could have and this happens sometimes in years past, in 22, I think a lot of our Japanese tree lilac had really rough, like when they were digging them out of the nursery, they had really poor root systems, that they delivered to us. And we were looking at them like, these might not make it. So I think the hackberries had something similar, but it didn't seem so problematic that they would.
can you get some feedback to,
I've already talked to them about it. Yeah, for sure.
I planted one in the cemetery and it gave it up for dead, completely
Yeah.
defoliated.
Yep.
Tear it down, rip it out.
Mhm.
I left it in over the winter and this prior spring, it came back.
Oh, awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, very cool.
And what was the
I
experience?
gave it up for dead and I'm telling you, the thing is
Yeah,
thriving.
we have some Turkish filberts that are like that. The Turkish hazelnuts, they defoliated. And this was from 2021 when we planted a few of these. And it looked really bad for a couple of years and now they look incredible. Like they're thriving.
What was the experience generally on the bare rooted planting?
I think it's incredible. It allows us to do so much more. The individual trees don't cost nearly as much. The shipping is way less because you can literally pick up clusters of trees in one hand and walk them out of the back of the truck. You can't do that with ball and burlap or even container trees.
I did.
I think save for the few instances that I mentioned where the root systems looked damaged beyond recovery.
That's a beauty.
That's maybe 10 out of, at least last year, that's the 10 out of the 200 trees we planted. And I think that's even all things considered, that's a pretty good success rate
Mhm.
in my opinion.
Question of curiosity out of on the skate park.
Yeah.
Since it's just an old gravel pit, landfill, whatever.
Stump dump.
Stump
dump.
Stumped up.
What, when you, on each site where you plant a tree, what will you have to, how will you have to prepare the land other on the soil?
But probably, well, I know that that site has been top dressed, and I know the loam spec was,
It came out, it delivered loam was
Yeah.
a lot better than the original sample.
Will that be-
okay. Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
the organic content was much better.
And we'll always amend the soil when
Okay.
we're doing our own transplantings across the city. We try and limit how much we do. But we'll add, maybe I'll say 25% of our super loam. We'll kind of mix that in with the parent soil and then plant that all together. We'll also follow up with compost tea with the mycorrhizae solution in there. So we find that that's worked well so far, and we've planted trees in some pretty poor soil across the city already. And I'm not thinking that this will be much different. So
So you'll plant sort of maybe where are you gonna plant there? Cause you can't plant too close to the park. 'Cause you don't
Yeah,
want junks
it's,
getting in there.
I'm not entirely sure, but
But
that
you'll
is
figure
that
that's
is
something
definitely a
that-
consideration.
of
And when we
course.
do plant something that's near the skate park, it'll probably be something that's like a fruitless variety. So all we'll be shedding our leaves. It
Right.
won't be like a big oak that will drop acorns in 30 years and get jammed up in skaters' wheels. It'll be something
Right.
that's, intentionally planted and not problematic.
It's already so well used.
Yeah.
I get the
absolutely.
biggest kick out of going by there and it's like, yeah, you got the 12-year-olds, but then you got the 35-year-olds.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, they're all doing it. It's wonderful.
It is.
So joyful. Great,
Oh,
great use of
I don't think
space.
anyone over 18 would be taking the. which is good, but it is.
Fabulous.
Any other new or old business?
I have a question, about silver maples.
Sure.
I don't know if there's an issue with them as well as all the other trees we've talked about. I've just noticed the two really tall ones on the Langdon property that they're, on the right, and they sort of hang on the boundary overlooking the 179 construction site, 179 Pleasant. And I noticed them because they're so tall, and in the winter, they're beautiful architecturally
Yeah.
in the sky. And, but I think both of them may be dead. I know one of them
Hmm. Okay.
was dead, and the other one, it didn't look.
When you
so
say the
healthy.
Langdon property, is that Langdon Park?
Langdon, no,
Oh,
the
okay.
Langdon House,
Oh,
sorry.
no, it's
Yeah,
okay.
So many Langdons. Yeah, the Langdon House property,
Okay.
and I just watching them, just because they're structurally beautiful, but they're really close to the construction, and I
Sure.
don't know, are they generally impacted by machinery going in and out, or is there?
At least
just
as far as like soil compression
Yeah,
and I think when you say silver maple, I more think of like how they're prone to having holes and cavities and being a little bit weak wooded.
yes,
So when I think of silvers, I'm not like looking at paying as much attention to the base and the roots and obviously trees will be impacted by construction and compacted soils. And depending on that soil composition, that could really affect the tree one way or another. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to go and look, but when I think silver maple, I think
I think
branches coming out.
poplar, when I think of silver maple, I think a succession tree. It just like
Oh,
comes in
sure.
fast and goes
Yeah.
relatively fast.
Mm.
so it may
Yeah.
just be, they may just be going.
Yeah, and I'll have to go and look just to see what but I made a note and I'll go look at
Can't
those two
miss 'em,
silvers.
just look
Okay.
at
And you said it was nearby the 179 Pleasant?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's, right near the fence.
Okay.
Behind like that additional building on the Langdon. estate.
Copy. Cool. Thank you. I'll go check that out.
And I
Yeah.
wanted to also say, I've been talking with Max and Effie Malley and I went out and we have photographed the ash trees that are slated to. Effie's been doing a lot of work on tree photography and she's done a couple shows with it. So she's developing the art of taking photos of trees. So we went and I talked with Max. So any ash you get on your
Absolutely.
radar, let me know, because we might do something and maybe share them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let Effie know that I think there's a position open on the committee, right? That
Yes.
we're looking for. So if she's interested in being a committee member.
Well, thank you. She's very busy with the sustainability committee and
Yeah.
Peter Britz and she are just best buds.
They say those who are busy can be.
Can be,
here.
are very, yes, yeah. Now, Dick did mention a candidate, somebody that he had been speaking with. So I think we're going to invite her to come and observe and.
Any other new or old business?
I do have a little bit of new business. It'll be really brief. I know we've had a tree inventory for a long time. I think the first time that it was started was like 06. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but and then it, a few years later, another run at it, a few years later, another run at it. So I've been working with our GIS folk upstairs and we are now carrying iPads when we go out and do work on any trees. We'll do a really quick evaluation on the tree. We've already updated over 200 sites that just from all the years of tree planting we've been doing, we have a lot of new trees to inventory. And also as we go around, oftentimes we do work on trees that aren't, when we go out to a job and it's a request from a homeowner to do a tree pruning, we'll also probably do a couple of the smaller trees around it and do, if we're set up in the bucket and it's really easy to go across the street and do a clearance prune on a tree, we'll just do it right away. So we're not capturing quite a lot of the work that we're completing. So it's a part tree inventory maintenance and then also, quantifying all of the work that we do.
Good.
So we've, been working upstairs with again, our GIS people, and we've really catered the system that we have to work for us and the needs that we have, as opposed to going with Davy Tree Keeper, which would have been expensive, and ultimately it would have been doing the same things that we wanted anyway, that we're now able to utilize what we have existing. So anyway,
Great.
yeah.
Wonderful.
So that
Does
was
that
just a
help,
little-
does that help us be the tree, one of the tree, what are we, tree cities?
Yeah, it
That's sort of
the inventory maintenance is definitely a part of the growth award, I believe.
Okay, great.
So it's definitely something that we've had it's just really, I'm excited to have, a better snapshot of our inventory. And now that we've removed so many ash trees and
Mhm.
the work quantifying started as of this year, but
Mhm.
we have been doing inventory upkeep maybe like the last couple of weeks of December is when that
Mhm.
started.
I love the flag, our Tree City flag that's on Market Square. Other people may not notice it, but when people chit chat and fuss at me, I'm like, did you see this? This says a lot.
Who would have thought that our Public Works city arborist will be carrying around iPads? It's mind blowing.
Chainsaw attached to it.
Mind blowing.
Yeah.
Well,
That's really good news. Thank you.
Peter,
Very good.
the pathway to the Hall Cemetery off South Street has been completed
Oh, really?
and they did a fine job.
Fabulous.
They chipped everything out. So now the pathway is.
It's a bald knob now. It's very interesting. It's like, whoa,
Ah,
you can see all the way right through.
Yeah,
oh, fantastic. I can't wait to go
Pizza
take a
there.
walk. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll,
yeah, they chipped all those Norway maples and that's the bed of the
oh,
pathway.
Yeah.
Yes.
all right.
Hopefully it'll settle in a little bit.
Yeah,
You adjourning?
go back down.
Because right now it's pretty raw.
Are you running? Are you dashing again? Peter's adjourning. I'll second that adjournment and we're done.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Happy